I don't know about you, but I am feeling cozy. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Super excited to be kicking off this vlog. I am just in the mood for fall. You know, it's been a little chilly here in Texas for the past couple of days, and I have been craving a different kind of book. Similar to the last vlog, I've just been in a mood reading sort of mood? Mood reading mood? Repetitive? Maybe. But you understand what I'm saying. I haven't wanted to read the same old, same old. I have collected 3 books that just seem like things that I want to read right now. Things that I would love to experience with all of you. Let me tell you quickly about those books, and then we can get into the vlog portion of the video. First up, probably the piece de resistance, the book that I'm most excited to read, the one I'm most hesitant to read as well, is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I can't say that I know a ton about this book. I've heard that there is vampire vibes. I've heard that this is a historical fantasy novel. It's on my most anticipated list for 2024. I'm a little nervous going into this one because historical fantasy tends not to be my thing, but Leigh Bardugo is my thing. And I have high hopes for this one. I feel like this is a book that came out and didn't really get that much buzz, and the reviews I have seen have been kind of eh. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that it's a good one. Another book that I feel like I've heard a lot of buzz about is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore, I want to say. This is supposed to be a Gilmore Girls inspired book. And then lastly, a bit of wild card pick, Until I'm Yours by Kennedy Ryan. This is the 4th book in a series that I have never read from before, but when I saw this was available, I was like, you know what? I want to give it a try because Kennedy Ryan never fails to deliver a good romance, and I feel like I don't hear much about the series, so I could be the trailblazer. I'm not saying that nobody has ever read these books before. I'm saying I haven't heard a lot of hype for them, and I would like to. So I'm gonna read this one and we'll see how it goes. Definitely outside my wheelhouse. It's, I think, kind of like a billionaire style romance, but I don't know, something about it just intrigued me. Mostly the cover. The fact that someone said that this is a golden retriever meets black cat romance, and you know how I like an unlikable female heroine. So those are the 3 books I'm going to be reading. Before we get into it, I have to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, who I'm so excited to be partnering with, Parade. Honestly, couldn't pick a better sponsor for this particular video because the underwear that I have been obsessed with lately are so cozy, they're so comfortable, and I don't want to say that I'm surprised that I love them, but I have been experimenting with a different style of underwear lately. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm a thong girly. I like black thongs in specific. I like black underwear. That's just my go-to. Lately, I've been wanting something a little bit more comfortable for home, something that is not going to bunch up, something that is going to just lay perfectly against the skin. And since I'm in the middle of a weight loss journey, I actually needed to kind of re-up on some underwear anyway because I am a smaller size, okay? And the Replay high-waisted brief, these are just genuinely some of my go-to underwear. I absolutely love the details on these. There's like mesh on the sides, but the Replay material in the center, which is a really cool material. It's like super, super soft. It's made out of rescued materials that would otherwise be wasted in kind of the production process. These are game changers for me. They're so cozy. I love wearing these when I am at home in a pair of like baggy shorts a la Adam Sandler and a big baggy t-shirt. I also like wearing them when I'm out in public as well, which I didn't expect because I've always just been a thong girly, but these underwear, like they truly have changed the game for me. And every time that I am out of these, every time that I need to do laundry, I will go out of my way to do laundry so I have more of these at the ready, at my disposal. I'm obsessed. And the cool thing about Parade is that they have like so many different styles, so many different sizes, so many different colors. So no matter what your underwear preferences are, like you will find something that you love with Parade. And honestly, their prices can't be beat. Even better though, is that I have a code for you if you want to try Parade out for yourself. If you use code Chandler40, you can get 40% off site-wide, which is amazing because again, Parade's prices are already great, but 40% off. You can stock up on underwear. You can have a cozy fall and not have to worry about anything pinching, bunching, just being uncomfortable. Just have a nice underwear drawer. Like, honestly, I think that is one of the biggest game changers as an adult person. Some comfy undies. Code Chandler40 will get you 40% off site-wide. Go check them out. They have amazing stuff. Thanks to Parade for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now let's get into the vlog portion of the video. Nothing says cozy like being freshly Pilates. I read a little bit of this before I went to my Pilates class. I came back and now I'm ready to talk about it, okay? I am 86 pages into The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This book I decided to pick up because something vampiric, something magical, something semi-historical feels cozy to me, okay? And it has been a hot second since I've read a Leigh Bardugo book that people didn't like. I feel like fall is the time to read those books. The first time I ever read Ninth House was I believe the fall of 2020. I just remember everybody hating it and me eating it up. Hopefully that'll be the case here. Okay, this book's about our main character, Luzia. Definitely not saying that right or in a beautiful accent. She is living in Madrid, okay? She's living with this couple, are kind of, I don't want to say down on their luck, but they're not very fancy people, right? They like to act like they are, but they definitely don't have very much money, and she is a maid for them. They only have 2 people working at their house, which, I mean, you know, back in the day, that's like, they're kind of down on their luck. And Luzia is living in like, basically a closet under the stairs, you know, she's like not having the best time. She's treated pretty poorly until it's discovered that she has magical abilities, right? And it's kind of dangerous to have magical abilities in Spain at this time because the Inquisition is happening. At the same time, miracles are being performed, I don't want to say by the church, but like in the name of the church. So Luzia's living situation takes advantage of the fact that she has magic. They like show off her magic, and she gets attention from this like really wealthy guy who is trying to put forth kind of a champion, if you will, who will eventually work for the disgraced Secretary of Spain to hopefully impress the King of Spain, I'm assuming. There's a lot of people, and that's my one complaint so far in this book, is that there's so many people involved, so many names that seem very similar to me. Trying to keep everybody straight is a little bit challenging. Like, again, we've got the lord of the house, I guess. We've also got the guy who's trying to train her up. We also have the guy who she is going to be tossed off to if she wins. And then there's also the King of Spain. So like there's a lot going on, right? Like a lot of people. But the most important thing that we need to know is that she is going to be trained by this guy, and this guy also has someone living in his house named, I want to say, Saint Angel, Saint Angel, not to let the Texan come out, and I'm pretty sure he's a vampire. We don't really know what his role is yet, but he visits Lucia when she has been upgraded from, you know, basement dweller to bedroom dweller. And he's like, let me talk to you about kind of what's going to happen. There's a guy who's kind of in charge of your life now, and I'm also kind of here to help you, sort of. We actually don't really know his intentions yet, but God, I'm doing a horrible job at explaining this book. It's confusing. It's just a confusing ass book. Like, I kind of get it, but can I articulate it? Certainly cannot. How am I feeling so far? Neutral. Kind of like I felt when I picked up Ninth House for the first time. I was like kind of curious about the main character, kind of curious about this world, kind of curious about like things are going to play out. One thing that I feel like I should point out that is kind of important is that our heroine is Jewish. Again, we are in Spain and they are Catholics and they do not like anybody who is Muslim or Jewish. So this is kind of challenging for her, and she has to kind of like pretend like she isn't Jewish, even though I believe what we're being led to believe is that a lot of her magic stems from the fact that she is Jewish. All I know is that her life is definitely at risk here, you know? Is she gonna fall in love with the vampire? I hope so. I don't think so, frankly, but I hope so. I feel like I need to get further on this before I speak more on it. I feel like I sound like a total dumbass, and that's true, but that's kind of like cozy, is it not? Being a little dumb? Just kidding. I can't equate everything to coziness. I'll be back. I'm somehow more confused about this book than I was previously. Not like I'm more confused about the plot of this book, I'm just more confused about my feelings on it. So the part that I'm at right now, Luzia is at the secretary to the king's, or like ex-secretary to the king's house, and she is entering this, what do they call it, a torneo? This tournament essentially to show off her skills, and she's competing against a few other people. I like that there's not too many people she's competing against. I feel like that's a little too YA. This book, I think it's like 3 or 4 other people that she's competing against. There's a kid who can, I think, like see the future. There is someone who is really beautiful, but we don't know her powers because she's kind of like a liar. There's a guy who's really good at like playing music and like can speak to animals, kind of, I don't know, can like do things with his music. And then we got our girl. She's got her skills, she's got her abilities, and she's definitely more than meets the eye. I actually really like our heroine. I really like subtlety and nuance in my characters, and I think that often when I read romantasy, we don't really get a lot of that. The heroines are either like really meek, or they are really stubborn and brash and just are not in any way relatable. The heroine in this book, because of her life circumstances, she's a little bit willing to do whatever to make a fucking bag, to make a check, to get some coin. And I really respect that, you know? She kind of has the opportunity to like not go through with this tournament and not enter. A couple of times she has that opportunity, but you know, she keeps going down the path of temptation, which I think is really an interesting concept. This interesting relationship too with the vampire guy. Okay, he's a familiar, which like we don't really know what the fuck that means, but he's giving vampire. I mean, honestly, like just his general vibe. This is his arm, I guess, because he's got the scorpion on him. He is the one that has been training her to be more impressive with her magic. He finds out that she knows knows more than he thought previously. Like, she's been keeping some tricks up her sleeve, and he is surprised and impressed by this. And I'm just liking it's not a relationship, there's no relationship there, but I'm liking their acquaintanceship, their machinations that seem to be working together and also working against each other. It's pretty interesting to me. I think I like this book. I think I like it. It's hard to say if I really truly enjoy it because this is so outside of my wheelhouse, but I want to find out what happens, you know? I feel like since the last time we spoke, you know, the plot is going in a direction that I thought it was going to. Like, yes, we're having the competition that we found out about earlier in the book, but I have no idea how this is going to end. This is a standalone novel. I'm very curious. Also, I don't know if I've already said this, but Santon Hell, or whatever the fuck his name is, Santon Hell, he's trying to earn his freedom, I guess, by helping the heroine. So he has a lot of motivations that are interesting to me, and I'm like, is he going to betray her at some point? Is he going to go back on his idea of getting free? But this is a very beautiful book, and I'm just so intrigued by it. I can understand why people don't enjoy this. I can understand why this does not have universal appeal. This book is like fairly niche. I don't know who the fuck I'd recommend this to be frank. Like, it's a little bizarre. It's a little bizarre. But I kind of like weird shit from time to time. Not always. Most of the time I don't, but every once in a while. If it's Lee's brand of weird, I'm kind of into it. Maybe I'll have more to say in the next clip. I just keep hoping that that's the case, and then shit happens. But the good news is, this is the only book like this, you know? We're also reading a cozy mystery and romance, so I'll have more to say, more articulate thoughts about that. I think that's the thing. It's like when you haven't read a lot of a genre before, when you're not well versed in it, it can be hard to articulate thoughts and feelings. But so far, interesting. Good morning, friends. From me and my other friend, I am ready to talk books, and let me tell you, I have so much to say. I'm gonna do my makeup while I do that, though, okay? We're gonna chat, we're gonna have a good time. First up, let's talk about The Familiar. Tell me why Leigh Bardugo manages to write the most romantic shit. It's upsetting to me. I want her to write an actual romance, because I think she'd fucking kill. I think she'd do so well at just, like, a traditional romance. Doesn't even need to be contemporary. Like, give me a, like, Twilight style romance. I mean, I guess that's kind of what this was. Oh, I don't want to spoil it, but things do get romantic between The Familiar and Miss Luzia, and I just love the execution of the latter part of this story. Like, of course, the 50% mark on is really where I think the story gains its footing. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily something that you should rush out to pick up and rush out to read, but the longing and the yearning and the romantic threads of this are really what kept me engaged, and I really did not know how this was going to end, which I kind of liked. Like, up until the final pages, I really had no idea how this book was going to end. I was like waiting with bated breath to see the outcome for our characters. I really liked what ended up happening. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to, but genuinely, I thought this was like very solid. I mean, do I think there were too many characters? Probably, yeah. Did I care a ton for certain plot lines? No. Specifically the plot line with Luzia and her aunt, I just really didn't care much about that. In fact, it kind of just made me sad, which I guess is sort of the point. Yeah, her aunt was a very complex character, so I, respect Leigh for writing her that way, but since that plot line ultimately, I feel like didn't have a satisfying conclusion, I didn't really love it, if that makes sense. I don't know. There is a sapphic moment also in this book, which I was not expecting, and I really fucking enjoyed. Y'all, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I would rate this book, or who the hell I would recommend this to. I think that if you're someone who likes spooky stuff, okay, if you read A Dowry in Blood by S.T. Gibson, like, you like that sort of vibe, but less sex, mayhaps pick this up. There is sex in this book, though, I will say. It's not like graphic, but there is sex. I think you might like this, because again, it's got that kind of like, it is historical. It's got a historical vibe to it, but it also has like magic, romance, and I don't know, y'all. I actually am really glad that I picked this one up. I was like on the fence about it. It's one of the few books that I have left on my list of like most anticipated for the year. I'm surprised I've like managed to organically pick up most of the books on that list, because some of them were kind of outside my wheelhouse, and this one definitely was, but I picked this one one up so that I could get closer to, again, finishing that list. And let me tell you, I'm glad that I picked it up. I'm always gonna trust Lee, to be honest. Like, when have I not liked a book by her? I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you. I like all of her shit. But she just has such a distinct way of writing. If you are into the way she writes any of her romances, I think you'd like this. I would say that's who I'm gonna recommend this book to. If you are a Leigh Bardugo fan and you like the way she writes her romances, which is semi-unsatisfying, but also like, how can you be unsatisfied because it's so deeply romantic? Pick this up, I guess. But just be warned, the first 50%, you might be bored. You might be a little bit bored, and you might not like Lucia's character. That was one of the things that I read most often in the Goodreads reviews for this book, is that people don't like her character. I personally liked her kind of from the beginning, but I can understand why other people don't. So I don't know, if you don't like kind of a snarky, semi-boring character, like, maybe you won't enjoy her. But I think the boring is just to throw you off. She's really not that boring as a character, especially as the book continues. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Well, okay. Not 10 out of 10. I actually don't even know what the fuck I'd rate this. Somewhere between 3 and 4 stars. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars, I think. You know, I feel like that's really what I'm feeling. It's not quite a 5-star read. Quotability is 5 stars. Good times, good times. Another good time that I'm having that I don't want to say that I'm surprised by, but I am, okay? I decided to pick up a Kennedy Ryan book, you know, and I should have expected that it would be a banger, but given the series, I just wasn't sure. So I'm reading Until I'm Yours by Kennedy Ryan. This is the 4th book, I believe, in the Bennett series. I've not read any of the books in that series, and I want to say those are some of the first books that she ever wrote. They're giving classic, like, billionaire romance style vibes. This one in particular is set in New York, and it is between a model and a philanthropist businessman, for lack of a better, like, way to describe him. Really cool stuff. He is in the midst of, like, trying to sell his company, I believe, to our heroine's dad. I could be wrong, but something to that effect. How to even describe this book? This is a black cat golden retriever romance. You've got a heroine who in the other books, I'm being led to believe, is kind of the worst. You do get an intro by Kennedy in the beginning of this book where she talks about how Sophie, our heroine, is really someone that we've grown to hate, but that, you know, she was really looking to write a fun redemption story. Maybe not fun, but a redemption story. And that's definitely what this book is. Our heroine is hard to like, but in a way that I find so refreshing and that is so well done. And I mean, who's surprised? It's Kennedy Ryan writing this. Sophie is a model. She has always kind of done her own thing. Her family are really, really wealthy, and she was always assuming she was going to marry this one guy. And this one guy, Walsh, he marries someone else in one of the other books. He has like his own story. So I'm assuming she probably got in the middle of like his relationship with whoever he married, and that was part of their storyline. But I digress. Sophie, in this book, is trying to start her own business. She was a model for very many years. She decided not to go to college because she was like waiting around to marry the guy that she thought she was going to marry, but who like she wasn't really that in love with, I guess. So anyway, she's starting her own website, and it's kind of like a Goop-esque website, but for fashion. So yeah, she's like taking her modeling and like fashion expertise and joy and bringing that to the masses, I guess. Kind of in the midst of some of the dinners and the galas and stuff that she goes to, she ends up meeting this guy, Trevor. And Trevor is this kind of like philanthropist businessman who again is trying to sell his company, and he is instantly drawn in by Sophie, which is interesting because Sophie is not someone who is easy to like. She is bitchy. She is kind of a man-eater. The personality that she gives off and the vibes that she gives off to men is like, I will chew you up and spit you out. She's dating like a quarterback at the beginning of the book who's like kind of obsessed with her, and all she wants from him is dick. She just is kind of ruthless, and I kind of like didn't know how to feel about her at first. Like I respected it begrudgingly, but I wasn't sure that she had a lot of depth to her. But as the story carries on, the depth that she shows and the hurt behind a lot of her actions is revealed to us, and you just feel so sympathetic towards her. Kennedy Ryan's really good at writing a good sympathetic heroine, even if that person is not maybe traditionally likable. Sophie has had her fair share of problems. Like, her family has never been very supportive of her, which obviously causes, you know, a decent amount of trauma. She also has had some bad relationships with men. Some have resulted in assault, and that assault is something that I don't want to say is at the forefront of the story, but it is mentioned quite a bit. We don't see it happen, which is good, but we do hear it talked about in detail. But like, it comes up. It's a part of the plotline of the story. Her gaining the courage to kind of come forth with the fact that this has happened to her. You deal with people not believing her heroine about the assault that she has gone through. But you also have this hero who is just, again, so good at seeing through her defenses, breaking down her walls, and really insisting that he is there for her. At the beginning of the story, actually, before they really like go on their first date and really have, you know, tender moments, he basically basically asks her out on a date, and she's like, I don't date. I don't want to date. Like, I will have sex with you, but like we're not dating. I don't do this. And he's very insistent. He's like, okay, well then if you don't want a date, like I have no interest in this. I don't just like bed women. That's not really what I'm interested in at this like phase of my life. Like, I'm in my 30s and I'm looking for like long-term, you know, settle down stuff. I find you very fascinating and interesting. I want to get to know you. And she is really put off by this. She does not know how to react to this because it doesn't ever seem like anyone is really interested in her beyond just her looks, because again, she is a model and she's had really bad luck with men in the past. And the way that they speak to each other, I think, is so well done. It could be so contrived, you know what I mean? Like this idea of like her just being, I just want to fuck, and him, you know, being like, I want a relationship. Like, I've seen that in books before, but the way that it's executed in this book I thought was just very excellent. And I don't really know how to describe it other than like maybe read this book and see what I'm talking about, because I love the way that they talk. And he is such a smooth talker, such a gentleman, also so sexy. I'm kind of obsessed with him. Like, I kind of think he's like, I don't want to say the perfect man. Like, you can tell he has flaws too, but he's great. I love him. And I think he's like the perfect foil to her. I don't know if I'd call him like a total golden retriever, but like he is just so well suited to our heroine's personality. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my makeup. I'll be back with you all in a little bit. I think we're safe for now. And by that I mean, I've got an evil little rat in here making a mess of life. Oh my god. For real though, look at him. Look at him. He's got evil in his heart. Reading books. I've been reading books. I finished the Kennedy Ryan book and I enjoyed it. I don't think this is going to be like new all-time favorite status. Definitely not like my favorite book by her. Could be my least favorite book that I've read by her, but that doesn't really mean that much considering I like her stuff. I think that I would have preferred more conflict that was really just between hero and heroine, if that makes sense. SA plotline in this book is very heavy, so if that is something that you avoid in books, I definitely avoid this one. Assailant approaches our heroine years later and like threatens her. There is a lot that keeps getting brought up in the media about our heroine's reputation. It's just like kind of dark as the book carries on, and it's probably realistic, you know, just considering what we've seen in the Me Too movement, but I don't typically love when books have SA at the forefront. I know that that is something that is very relevant and definitely happens, and I'm not saying it shouldn't exist in books, just my preference not to read books that have that plotline so at the forefront. So it's tough because I liked the romantic relationship, but I didn't like that plotline very much. It was handled well, but it just was not pleasant to read. And I feel like you could say the same thing about first book in the basketball series that she writes. Is it Long Shot? Is that the first one? You know, that one has domestic violence and it's on page and it's, you know, a big part of that plotline of that book. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad book or that Kennedy Ryan can't write. It means that she writes so well that it's really challenging to read about. That's not for everybody, you know, not everybody wants to pick that up, and I think that's totally fine. So it's like, this one's tough. I wouldn't call it like the coziest read. I wouldn't necessarily say pick this up if you're looking for like a cozy good time, but it is a solid romance, and I did really like the transformation that both hero and heroine went on. I love the epilogue at the end of this book too. I thought that was really charming and delightful. Tough one for me. I don't know what I'd rate this, maybe 3 stars? Yeah, I feel like that seems right to me. 3 stars for this one, 4 stars for The Familiar. Pumpkin Spice Cafe, okay? I feel like I've been seeing this book everywhere. Apparently it's a TikTok sensation, and I only know that because Amazon says it in the title. TikTok sensation, read this book. I have seen a couple of people on Instagram mention that they've enjoyed it. A lot of my friends on Goodreads have read it, so I figured I'd give it a try. And for some reason, based on the cover, I thought this was a cozy mystery. It is not. And I think I'm disappointed in that, frankly. It's not that, like, this book is bad. It's just that this book's really fucking boring, I'm gonna be honest with you. So this is a hallmarky romance about Jeannie, who is back in town. Not back in town. She's like, this is a town she visits often, I guess, as a kid. Anyway, she's back in town. Her aunt is gifting her or like allowing her to run this cafe because her aunt wants to retire. And so she's taken over the cafe. At the beginning of the story, she is a little nervous because she keeps hearing noises at night. She lives above the cafe in an apartment, and she keeps hearing noises at night and she doesn't know what's going on. She ends up having an encounter with someone delivering produce. He doesn't have anything to do with the noises. And in fact, I think the noises are going to be a plot line that's explored in this book. But his name is Logan, and he is very much the Luke character, and Jeannie's very much the Lorelai. She apparently talks a lot and is like charming. She goes to a town hall meeting. She learns more about the small, charming little town that she's living in. She's like, oh, I never really felt fulfilled in my 9-to-5 job, and like, this might be the right spot for me, but maybe it's not. She has a lot of self-doubt. Here's the thing, I don't think that's bad. My issue with it is like, we're not talking about why she's worried about running this place herself. Like, I don't know if I'm cut out for it. How about like maybe you have like your financial stakes on the line or something? I don't know. It just feels like her anxiety is misplaced, misguided, if you will. My issue is that I'm bored. I am not invested in this book at all. I don't care about the side characters. I don't care about this town. And I feel like a curmudgeon saying that, but like, it just is the truth that this book is just kind of boring to me. I'm not getting the Gilmore Girls vibes, because the thing about Gilmore Girls is that the humor is there. You've got to have that quick-witted, fun humor. You can't just tell me that this person is like quick-witted and talks quickly and then not show me that. I don't know. I'm just kind of like about it. Kind of indifferent. And I think my goal is to get to the 50% mark and then decide if I want to finish this. Because you know a bitch will DNF. I'll DNF. Even if it's a 3-book video, I'll DNF. So I'm gonna keep reading and I'll report back. Just as I thought. Trash. Just kidding. It's not trash. I don't like this though. And why are people just kissing out of nowhere? That's what I'm not understanding about this book. There's a lot that I'm not understanding about this book. Primarily the hype. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of people telling you to read this fall, and I'm gonna be the first to tell you just don't. Just honestly don't. And that feels really negative and shitty to say, but here's the thing. I don't want you wasting your time. Like, if you are on the hunt for a good cozy romance, much better ones out there. Like, if you're looking for just like a regular contemporary with Gilmore Girls vibes, like, please pick up anything by BK Borison. Or, God, I think I did a whole video either reading or recommending things based on Gilmore Girls vibes, and all of those books, I can firmly say, feel more Gilmore Girls than this book. It's just, it's very hollow. There's nothing about this that really stands out as unique or interesting, worth your time. I don't want to be a hater. Just kidding. I was born to be a hater. I just don't really want to talk about this book anymore because it's like it's not that good. It's just not that good. And that sucks because I wanted this to be like fall vibes and similar to the Gilmore Girls video that I think I did like a year or two ago, but it was not to be. And I think what I'm finding is that I like horny vampire books. Like I already knew. I'm gonna continue to hunt for cozy things so that I can recommend them to you. I'm sorry that we couldn't find more in this video, but if you're a Lee Bardugo fan, pick up The Familiar. If you're a Kennedy Ryan fan, pick up Until I'm Yours, because I really think that both of those are solid books. This one, just simply don't do it. Thanks for watching this video. Love it so much. I'll see you in the next one.